Hi, I'm Coral. This is Coral Gardens. We're gonna do a garden tour today. It is July, getting hot. We're growing in the high desert for those of you that haven't watched before. I'd love to have you follow along on my journey. We've got a good bit of land to grow on and just learning it as we go along. Let's take a look. Okay, it's July 6th in the garden. Stuff's going better. I was watching old videos this morning. It's definitely further along than in some years we've had it, but not as far along as I was hoping it would be at this time, especially like our big producers like tomatoes and big early producers and multiple producers of tomatoes and summer squash are both the furthest behind. So that's kind of a bummer, but there is a lot to see and a lot happening and changing. This little moringa that I didn't think was gonna make it is doing great. So he might perk back up. Got our little onion in our dry native soil. And some of those are making okay little progress. This one that's bent over probably isn't gonna get any bigger, so I should probably just pull him and use him as a little mini onion. I've been doing that with some of these not super happy little guys that I planted in funny places. We have our zinnias. That one's about to bloom there. Mint looking okay. This little container actually doesn't have holes in it, so we've been watering it kind of strangely, and I think it might not love it. This is a holy basil volunteer, and then again some zinnias getting ready to bloom. Planted carrots here, have not come up yet, but as you can see, there's all kinds of little trees of heaven. These are our biggest weed. So annoying. And then our parsley that went to flower and now is going to seed. We have some new parsley back here. I finally again planted some more cilantro and basil in here. These were little green onions. I went through most of the ones that were bent over and pulled them out for small onions, but it looks like they're all bent over. So I think I'm just gonna pull all those out. And then we have a little chive plant. In our waffle gardens here. Oh, there's your bee. He's just very covered in pollen. Huh, his little head is just pollinated. You didn't want it there, you can't see. He's cleaning off. There you go, buddy. Clean your eyes off. He's like, I can't get out of here. Oh, there's some ants, I think, on that corn right there. But anyway, these are our Zuni waffle garden beds. So they have corn in the middle, and we alternated squash and watermelon to ramble along the ground. Some of them have sunflowers like this guy that are a third sister, and some have amaranth that came up as a volunteer that we let be another, not third sister, like a cousin. The third sister is the beans, which my son planted, and some are coming up. I don't see too many yet, but there is some. Little tomatillos, one last tomato that didn't get planted, and some sunflowers. I also planted nasturtium in some of these, and I think okra to try and do some last minute things to add in. This one that's sprawling out looks like a spaghetti squash. I feel like we planted so much spaghetti squash. It did really good last year. People tend to like it and buy it at the store, so hopefully, and I love it, so we'll definitely eat it, but also hopefully we can sell some at the farmer's market. Here's a little Moon and Stars watermelon, doing pretty good. This bed is always the most lush. I don't know, the soil must be a little better here. We've amended it pretty well too. There's another little squash. Let's hope it's not a spaghetti. Another little watermelon there. I think that could be a Charleston gray, but those corn are definitely the biggest. These are glass gem here. And here's another little, this is our biggest leafed, fastest growing squash. There's a little watermelon going underneath too. I haven't seen babies on the watermelons yet, and I haven't seen a baby on this guy yet to find out what he is. I'm hoping a big pumpkin. it's hard to water these in the morning because the squash blossoms are so close to where you need water, and I don't want to ruin the pollen for the bees or get any bees. I did kill my first squash bug the other day. I think it was on that squash over there, so I'm trying to really keep my eye out. I knew they'd come eventually. Our first year, they didn't find us, and that was really lovely. But every year since, we have battled them, and hopefully they never made it over to these beds though, so I'm a little bummed about that. But hopefully they'll leave some of our squash alone, kind of stick to the like weaker ones. I think that these ones that are going to tassel already, I'm worried about if they're gonna be able to pollinate the corn. But last year I think they did, and they did okay. So some of these corn are planted really densely and some are less so. Some's a lot greener than the others. I think that might have been that we amended those beds a little better. Here's another watermelon going under the squash. Look at it did this sharp turn when it hit the edge. It's cute. But we'll find out what all these squash and pumpkins are. I did the bigger squash out here where it can ramble along the ground, and then smaller squash along the trellis where I can support it, or it can support itself. This little corner, I accidentally planted a watermelon and a squash. Decided to leave them and see what would happen. So hopefully I can get them enough nutrients to make it. Oh, look at this watermelon growing along the corn. I guess I'll leave him. I've been pulling him out, but maybe he can do what he wants. This one I put 2 little dying butternuts that I was given by garden clubs and or friends, and they are supposed to both be butternut. They have different markings, as you can see, but the leaf shapes are really similar. Mosquito, I got him. This year has been so bad with mosquitoes. Supposedly they were spraying around here. I think there was a lot of runoff from the mountains. I don't know if you can see the mountains over there, the Sierra Nevadas. And so there was places where there was standing water and the mosquitoes were able to breed out of control, it sounds like. So the, Fish and Game or whoever controls that was supposed to have sprayed, but I have not seen evidence of that. Here we go again. This looks like a spaghetti squash again. And I think this one over here, I had ones that look like spaghetti too, so we may have a lot of spaghetti squash. We'll have to see how that goes. This one has a lot of amaranth that we let come up, and these will all be there to support the beans, which I just saw another bean coming up. That one looks like it might be a Cherokee Trail of Tears bean. Typically with a lot of plants, but especially with beans, the dark stems happen when there's a dark bean. They kind of all go together. There's another little bean down there. Really pretty squash blossoms on this guy, but I think they're all males at this point, so I don't know what he's gonna be. But yeah, this one had one that hadn't gotten, it hadn't gotten pollinated, but was kind of big on there, and it definitely looked like a spaghetti squash. This guy's funny too. Look at him. He has some that have the markings and some that don't have any. On the same plant. I don't know. Genetics are funny. Oh, there's another little bean in there. So the beans are kind of coming up everywhere. We didn't get all the way back with them. We ran out of beans. There's another moon and stars. Those also did really well here. So we put a lot of them in the ground to try and get a lot of watermelon. There's a female flower. And that's a little round looking squash. Maybe a pumpkin. Could be a Lakota. Watermelon there. I know that since there was one squash bug, there's probably hundreds that I'm just not seeing. That almost looked like a dead one, but I think it's a piece of like charcoal or something. And then, no babies on this one yet to tell. There's some sunflowers in there. Looks like another moon and stars. I think a couple of them, Cameron and I just kind of threw packets around and said, throw whatever in the ground. And I think we ended up with some of a lot of the same ones, which is just fine. Because again, if they're the ones that do well here, we'll happily take them. Some of these are growing in very bush-like habits. Not sprawling out yet, but we'll see how they do. Oh, watermelon there. And I think the initial ones were Glass Gem in the first, Painted Mountain, and then Glass Gem, and I think we ran out of Painted Mountain. See how sad and yellow these little guys are? These beds definitely did not get as much compost. We're gonna try and amend them soon with some more compost. I have been fertilizing with some granular fertilizer and fish emulsion. We need to do another fish emulsion in the next couple days. There's a little squash there. Some of the granular fertilizer I just sprinkled from above and has clearly gotten caught in the corn where it's not probably the most useful spot. Little watermelons there. These all got planted last. We dug these beds kind of as the summer was coming on with my son working 2 jobs. So some of them weren't ready in time to do right away. There's a nice little weed in here. I'm trying to weed these as much as I can, but they're actually, you know, because they're dug in, you're bending over further than just you would at ground level, and that's pretty hard for me to do with my disabilities. Some of these we are running low on corn seeds, so they have a lot of sunflowers or amaranth in them. And these little guys, a little squash and oh, whoa, there's a squash on that one. Let's go take a look. Huh. It would be funny if this was a zucchini plant, because that's what that looks like. Those are ants, I believe, not nymph squash bugs. Yeah, that looks like a gray zucchini more than anything else, but could also be a butternut. I mean, spaghetti. I keep doing that. Why is my brain broken this morning? It's broken most mornings, let's just be honest. Plum and peach tree in the bags here. Doing okay. This is what the coloring's supposed to be of these plum leaves, but there are some dried out and unhappy looking ones. I'm not positive we can keep trees alive in this high heat in bags, but we killed one that we tried to put in the ground, so we're just seeing what we could do. We won both of these from my son's tribe at different events. It's so cool that they raffle off trees really often, because it's such a cool thing to win. And sweet potatoes here, 2 different colors of orange. And despite these leaves being really dark, like I was telling you, usually those kind of denote a darker fruit, but she said those are definitely both orange. This is a mystery tomato we got from our little gardening group. And then around it, I had planted carrots there. And then when I didn't have any place for him, I just decided, I'm not sure how the carrots will do. Let's just throw the tomato in there. And here I planted edamame and bush beans. Tanya's pink potted bush beans. Mostly, those are my favorite. They're so pretty. I think it is finally time to cut the hollyhocks all the way back. I cut most of the stalks down and saved seeds. These are the seeds here. We are going to, I'm going to save some more seeds. So we're going to spread them all around here and try and actually plant some in and water them. And then we're going to spread them maybe along the creek here too, to see if we can get just a bunch. Over here, I planted sunflowers. And then we're going to take volunteer amaranth that I'm about to show you. There's some tomato beds over here that just look like amaranth nurseries. There's so much volunteer amaranth because we let it go to seed and let the birds have it last year. So we're going to take that and plant it all along here. I was looking at the first year. We had a couple really pretty tall amaranth and some really pretty tall sunflowers over here, and it was gorgeous. There's 3 bees asleep in here. Gorgeous. And then this one hopefully is in evening colors, and I've had that grow really pink, like the most pink sunflower I've ever seen. They advertise oftentimes really hot pink, baby pink sunflowers. Those do not exist. There is a strawberry blonde that's kind of yellow with pink accents, and then this evening colors is kind of white with pink accents. And like I said, I've grown a couple that looked really pink. I'll put a picture. here is our summer squash. And we started these, we sowed all of these, and these are the only two that came up, these two bigger green ones. So while we were re-sowing where all these other smaller green ones came up, we got a couple yellow crookneck here and up here from our garden group. And then we re-sowed all these other ones, which have now all come up. And so hopefully they'll catch up quickly. These grow really fast, so we try to space these out. The first year that we grew our summer squash in here, and they did really well. So we're hoping that'll happen again. That time we had a shade over them. This time we let a lot of the trees grow bigger, so we're hoping that'll shade them enough. And we have our shades over here. We should be getting some more shade from that garden group there. It's so amazing. They give you some kind of cool garden tool or prize every month when we meet. And last month we got a hori hori that I'll show you at the end of this if I remember. These are some cherry tomatoes I planted from seed. I know what varieties I have overall, so hopefully when they come up I'll be able to identify them all. But I mean when they come on, when the fruit comes on. But I did not label because I started everything in a teeny tiny AeroGarden inside in small red cups. So I just put all the slicers in one, all the cherries in another, so I could at least differentiate those, and then planted them out, and we'll see what comes up. This is a little Chileno that almost died. The other Chileno just completely died, and then there's one down there. It's nothing. This guy started to die and started coming back. I think that's a baby beet. So in the fall, I planted beets and lettuce in this bed, and almost nothing came up. We had one big, beautiful beet right here that I knew was probably yellow or white. And the other day, I found him eaten on and dying. So I don't know. It looks like it was eaten on from the, he could have got pulled and then eaten on, or he could have got eaten from the bottom. And we might have a gopher, which is a real big bummer. I hope he just leaves alone most of our stuff. The other thing that makes me think we have a gopher is this plant was perfectly fine the other day. The roots got super loose all of a sudden, and I tried to push him back into the soil, and he just looks like he's dying. I won't show you the other ones so I don't get age restricted. But yeah, that guy makes me think that that was probably a gopher or something that ate those roots. Here's our bigger cherries. These are all ones I planted from seed as well. These would be great if they were a lot further along at this point, but we're not gonna split hairs. We're gonna just be happy with what we got, and they're starting to make flowers and grow really quickly over here. This is a little volunteer hollyhock I'm thinking about keeping. Here's a little volunteer tomato. And in this bed, in the fall, I had planted carrots and radishes. I had one big radish that was right there in that hole, and he got eaten as well. Now I have a bunch of carrots finally coming up, which is kind of exciting. So they can grow under the shade of these. Here's another big volunteer tomato. I'm thinking I'm gonna let them grow. I have 3 Chilenos right along here. I planted the Chilenos. I really want to get these to can. I love Chileno peppers. So I planted them in different environments just to see what would work. And I finally did my first rows of Florida Weave. Florida Weave is just taking 2 posts, and usually I think you want to do 3 plants. We've done 5 here, and if we let the volunteers grow, it'll be way crazier even. But we've done this before, and they did just fine. They were held up. I just had to really reinforce them with the string. But you're just having 2 posts, 1 on each end, and then weaving string back and forth to hold up all the tomatoes. We planted onions in here as well. Some of them look like they're actually bulbing. That's a pretty nice red one, but a lot of them died without enough water. In the fall, we weren't watering nearly as much either. So let's see, there's another volunteer tomato. I really want some of the varieties that I didn't have access to this time, so I feel like I'm just gonna let them grow. We don't worry a lot about disease here. It's so dry. There's another volunteer. So I had a lemon cherry here or here, and then a mango, apricot, and midnight snack, and sun gold. One of those I'd be pretty happy. Here's another one. I don't know what that guy is. We'll see. Let him grow a little and see what he is. But yeah, lots of carrots. I don't know that I can let the hollyhocks live, but my son has decided they're his favorite flower, and he said if I kill them, it's like killing my grandchildren. He tried to make me feel guilty. I told him that we can't keep all of them where they are because it's not practical. Got to prioritize the food. But we might be able to move him out into the flower garden and see if he'll come up. They typically don't flower till the second year, and these ones, I think we're on their third. I think we planted them the first year. So sometimes I think they're short-lived biennial, is that what they're called? Where they, sorry, my throat gets so dry I can't talk sometimes. Where they live for 2, 3, 4 years and die out, so they're short-lived. But there's our squash. Hopefully we'll be producing very soon. I'd love to have some stuff coming out of the garden besides the little bit of herb and arugula we're getting now and green onions. These are our slicer tomatoes. Primarily, some of these are cherry along the edge because we had too many cherry. But they're starting to do really good under the shade. There's one of the amaranth beds I was telling you about where it's like looks like an amaranth nursery because there's so many volunteers in there. So I intend to steal a bunch of these. They're not going to be good to grow around the tomatoes. They're going to steal all its nutrients and water. So we'll get rid of those and then plant them all out either in the flowery area around the hollyhocks or along the fence line there. So our little volunteer, I think it's an Icarus baby, came from last year. Multi-headed, really pretty little ones. And then we planted another little sunflower down here. Here's a little fasciated blossom. That's when more than one blossom is growing together. You can see how it's not normal shape. This looks like just a double, and that'll make a big tomato. Sometimes you'll get where like 6 of them grow together, and that'll make a really big tomato. But a lot of times they'll be cat-faced, where they have little holes and indentions in them, and sometimes they can get sick or bug-eaten in those areas. It makes them a little weaker, but does make them bigger. Let's go around this side and look at these real quick. These are the only 2 that are from nurseries. And one of them, I think that one is a Kellogg's breakfast. And this one is a celebrity, which is a determinant, but we're still gonna just Florida weave him too. I don't know how well you can see all these guys, but here's a regular blossom. That's a typical one that's not fasciated. Glad these are all putting on. There's a little tiny grasshopper right there. They're so funny. Yeah. Oh, he hopped off. There's a couple more just regular blossoms. Some people pull the fasciated ones right away so that they don't have any issues with the cat facing and waste time and energy, the tomatoes' energy, on one that might not be good. But a lot of people who want to try for big tomatoes will leave them. This is our pepper bed. There's a mosquito under there that's trying to get me now. Get out of here, boy. Sorry, don't mind me. I've been really bitten up lately. I should have put on some off. This guy is, I think, one that I grew from seed. I'm pretty sure he's a sweet pepper, probably a bell. And then this one is a shishito that I bought from the nursery. Getting a lot of flowers on. I'm hoping that the shade cloth is permeable enough, not too shady, so that it allows the fruit to form. Here's a Chileno with a lot of flowers. Another Chileno. This one got a little sun damage, so he's recovering. Another Chileno that's doing good, and another Chileno that's doing good. Lots of little flowers. This is a jalapeno. He got really beat up by the sun before we put the shade on, but he's making a comeback. This is all new growth. It's a lighter green. I'm gonna pull this amaranth in this purslane. And then we get all these little trees everywhere. This bed originally had garlic, so there's a few garlics that might stay. These are all ones I grew from seed, and I don't know what they are. So is this eggplant, who's growing really straight up. Oy, I think he's got some aphid action. Yeah, definitely has some aphid action. That's another eggplant we got from a really nice lady on Facebook Marketplace, and a couple peppers we got from her. I didn't make you walk around the shade with me, but here's our couple of our biggest tomatillos. The other ones we haven't put in the ground yet, which is silly because they grow really fast. And I think probably tonight we'll try and get them in the ground. You always check the new growth for the aphid action. They love the new growth the most. And if you see ants, they are likely farming aphids for their honeydew, like their waste product, essentially. If you see ants, you likely have aphids as well. Here's a little volunteer amaranth just on this dirt pile. This dirt pile was going to be where we had a few more sweet corn beds. Next year we'll have to do that because my son, when he dug these up, threw the dirt over here. So not only does he have to dig those beds, but he has to move this dirt. It's a lot. These are our sweet corn beds. I just found out about corn making suckers. I don't know how this one, I knew it could make one on each side, like this one has. A lot of our corn has. And I read that from a study they did that they don't affect the actual production. So we're gonna try and leave them. But this one has grown 2 on each side. So he's like just flocked. They may get big enough to make their own ears of corn from what I read. And the big one may get larger and outcompete them, but they should still make the same amount of corn cobs. To get this little spider. Got this guy for Halloween, but he's just been chilling in the garden ever since. These sweet corn beds, I did kind of a modified 2 sisters. I put cucumbers in each corner that most of them didn't come up, or if they did, they died right away. So I replaced them with some kind of struggling ones from the garden club or my friend Anna. And then this one happened to come up, so I'm just gonna let them both grow. Oh no, this guy seems like he's breaking a little bit. I just have him up here typically to scare me. He doesn't usually scare me. If there was a spider that big in the garden, I certainly would be scared though. You gonna stay there? I might stay for now. Oh, over here is our onion bed. My son dug these out. They originally were going all the way down, I think between the purslane going crazy and just the heat over here. Some of them didn't make it. So these guys are doing really good though. I think we'll try this again next year with a little shade and a lot more attention early on. We have that, all that purslane I've been leaving. I think I'm gonna pull a little bit of it out, especially by the onions, so it's not stealing from the onions too much. And then in this aquifer, we got a ton of volunteer arugula. Last year we let arugula go crazy like this and bloom all summer. The bees love it. As you can see, there's already a bunch on it early in the morning. And I'm hoping to have arugula be one of the most prolific. Arugula and amaranth can be all my weeds in the entire garden. I'll be happy. There's little tiny bees just everywhere. And they love those little tiny blossoms like more than anything. So it's an early food for them, and that makes me happy. But these onions look like they're bulbing up nicely though. There's a little volunteer amaranth that's gone to flower, the first one to flower. And then we'll start on the trellises over here. So these are a combination of long beans, which these longer leafed, happier growing ones are all long beans. This one looks like a Cherokee Trail of Tears, that dark purple bean. Well, that's just a regular fly, and he stayed on there. I thought he was a hoverfly. Maybe he is a hoverfly. Are you a hoverfly, little guy? Anyway, the long beans make these really beautiful purple flowers. That one's about to open. And then there will be really long 2 to 3 foot beans after that. They're really good. I'll show you them as they start coming on. I think I have one on the other side. There's another one. These, the aphids tend to love them. See how there's ants at the newest, youngest parts? The aphids are the ants are putting the aphids up there. So you see those ants and you know that there's aphids. Here's another long bean. On this side, oh, there's also a couple runner beans over here, which are supposed to do great in the heat too. I also ordered a pack of runner beans, and we're gonna put those on the rest of the 3 sisters. Some of these are growing up really nicely. Still got a long way to go. Here is our first, see all those damn little tiny ants? Here's our first edible long bean. I'll probably harvest that today. I love to throw them in stir fries or ramen. They are a little bit squeaky and chewy, but they're really good in certain applications. And again, they grow a lot better here than in the heat than the regular green beans seem to. These next beds we have melons. That little guy's a cucumber, but these are melons. I know there's a couple small watermelon sugar baby, and I think the silver Yamato that we got last time was pretty small. So I think we put one of those there. This guy's just starting to want to grow up. I'll just give him a little hand. He's attached to a little stick on the ground there. But then there's also Charentis, I think they're called, Kajari melons. And this year we planted a couple cantaloupe. I don't like cantaloupe, but my son does. So, and I know, people at the market would like them as well. Anything musky is not my favorite. I don't like honeydew or cantaloupe very much. Although I've not really had them home grown out of a garden. I think they might be more musky when they are though, because they're probably picked when they're more ripe than the grocery store ones. But these melons are doing pretty good and starting to really grow up. I tend to do 4 a side, even though I probably should do 3 or 2 even. But 1 or 2 of these melons will probably succumb to the heat. So if I can get 1 or 2 to do really well, that's why I kind of overplant them. There's volunteer arugula everywhere. And again, bees in every, I don't know if you could see them. Bees in every flower usually. There's some more right there and some more over here. It's really starting to pop up. These are squash. Don't know what they are either. I generally like to soak the seeds to give them a little head start, and I am not organized enough, nor do I want to take the time to separate and label every one that I'm soaking, so I typically just put them in and I'll know what the fruit is once they start to develop. This is the biggest one. Again, I'm assuming it might be a spaghetti squash, because those have notoriously grown the fastest and the best, and those leaves do look very similar. See, some of them have the spotting and some of them don't. That also makes me think it, because that spaghetti squash over there had a similar habit. Again, there's that volunteer arugula, just going ham. This one, only 3 of the 4 squash came up, and I'm letting it stay like that so that it can just fill up that room, hopefully. Yesterday, there was a tiny little dying bee with broken wings right here who just looked terrible and beat up. I put some flowers on here with him and put a little lid full of water, and I kept an eye on him out the window, and I could see the little lid sitting on the flower. And then I couldn't leave him alone. I wanted to come back out and check on him. I'm such a weird softie now. And when I came out, the water was upside down in the bed. The flowers were askew and he was gone. So I'm not positive if he somehow miraculously flew off or if something could have gotten him. I'm choosing to tell myself that he flew off. He just needed that little bit of the flour and water I gave him, and he survived. But I don't know if that's true. This little guy is a Chinese melon that my garden club, the person who runs it, gave. I think she only knows the name in Chinese. I think it was written on a little stick in Chinese next to it. But hopefully I'll get the name from her so I can have a little bit of an idea what I might do with them. But I had read that they're really good to grow in high heat and not the greatest soil. So that's why I put them on this one, because we did not dig this one out, because we had this lovely volunteer, what I now think is a butternut or perhaps a butterscotch, which is a familial to a butternut. Familial? A cousin? He's a butternut with just slightly different characteristics. But he had already started growing really nicely, so we didn't want to disturb anything. When we planted this guy, we planted a little compost around him, and then we planted a seed of a loofah here, and we planted some compost, dug a little hole, put some compost, and planted him there so that hopefully he'll have a little better start. But also, the volunteers are always great for heat, growing in the environment, because they're accustomed to it. and volunteers just do better. They're just hardier. They just want to grow. So I just put those 3 along there, and I hope they'll all grow on that. This side was the last thing we planted. And I think that's a little gourd there. A little squash here. I think I did 4 along this too, but we've only seen 2 so far. And we did dig that one out and put a little compost, the last of our compost. I'm really excited to see what that little squash there is. It doesn't look like any of my normal squashes. Maybe it's a new one I haven't had before. Who knows? Maybe it's just the spaghetti and looks a little strange to start. But yeah, that's the garden as of, what did I say? July 6th, I think. I'm doing pretty good about keeping them actually weekly because enough stuff is changing that I'm like excited to show you guys. And I don't know, hope your garden's doing great as well. It's gonna be getting very hot here very soon, so we're gonna be looking for shade solutions. And trying to just keep everything really well watered and alive in our very sandy soil. I mentioned this last time. I was super excited to learn from in that garden club that typical wisdom that you hear from, I'm gonna go sit down with my water while I tell you this. Typical wisdom that you hear from gardening channels. One of my favorites is Roots and Refuge, Jess. And they're gonna tell you that you wanna water less frequently and very deeply so that the plant's roots can get really strong and go deep searching for water. I was always trying to do that with very little success, and if I didn't water daily, I realized my plants were just gonna die. And so at this garden group where the woman who's running it has she's a master gardener, and she had learned a lot more about soil than I knew. And our soil is sandy, loamy, but it's very sandy. And we're in the high desert here. And what she said is that with sand, the particles, you know, especially as they go down, are so large that the water just goes straight through it. So you could water deeply all you want, and you could try and train your plants to not need watering as frequently, but they're not gonna do as well, because in this kind of environment, your best bet is to your best bet is to water regularly. So we water twice a day, even in the worst part of the summer, because these plants will not survive if we don't. So it's just something that, like, I was very happy to find out, because I felt like I was doing it wrong, and I could have stronger plants if I had more willpower and didn't water them as frequently. But there are, what are they called? Something to every rule. There are exceptions to every rule. Thank you. I could do it. I can do this. I can talk in the morning. And this just happens to be one of them. And that made me feel validated and just feel like stronger in knowing that that is what I need to do, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. So that's the garden. We'll be watering twice a day here very shortly as it starts to creep up to 100 degrees a day. We'll be miserable, but the garden will survive and we'll love it in the meantime. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and hope you'll post any questions or comments you have below. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really helps my channel. I really love doing this. I love talking about my garden and, you know, sharing the few things I learn along the way with you guys. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. See you next time.
Like and subscribe.
Get nearly broken. Oh, there's a little hummingbird, and he's visiting our volunteer arugula. I don't know if you could see him. Hopefully that caught on camera. That was really cute.